Federal warrant. Open the door, sir.
Evan waited on the stone porch of the Van Alstyne mansion. It was October morning in the Hudson Valley. Cold wind rattled the old iron gate behind him. The federal task force was parked at the bottom of the hill. This warrant targeted Foundation money laundering. Clean case. Simple execution. But the door was already unlocked. Evan pushed it open. The foyer smelled like dust and old money. On the marble floor sat a heavy brass key stamped with a worn V crest. It rested on a white envelope. The envelope had his name written in old-fashioned handwriting, Evan Mercer. A gray-haired man appeared from the shadows. He stared at Evan like he was seeing a ghost. He whispered that Evan was not supposed to come alone. Who arranged this? Before we begin, if you could tap subscribe and like, it would mean so much to me. And if you don't mind, please leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from. May health and happiness find their way to you right where you are. All right then, let's begin today's story. Chapter 2. The Last Rule. Evan picked up the brass key. It was heavier than it looked. The worn V crest felt rough under his thumb. He slipped it into his jacket pocket and opened the white envelope. Inside was a single photograph. Old. Faded. The edges were soft from years of handling. It showed a woman standing on a grand staircase. She wore a simple blue dress. Her smile was wide and genuine. Next to her stood a man in a dark suit. His face had been torn away. Not ripped in anger. Torn carefully, deliberately. Like someone wanted to erase him, but keep the moment. Evan recognized the woman instantly. It was his mother. She looked maybe 30 years old. Young and happy in a way Evan had never seen in person. He turned slowly and looked up. The staircase in the photo matched the one in front of him. Same carved banister. Same arched window at the landing. Same burgundy runner down the center. His mother had stood right here. In this house. In this foyer. Why had she never told him? The gray-haired man was still watching from the shadows near the kitchen hallway. His hands trembled slightly. He looked like he wanted to say something but could not find the words. Evan pulled out his personal phone. He needed answers. He scrolled to Aunt Dottie, his mother's older sister. The only family he had left. She lived in a retirement community in Sarasota now. She answered on the third ring. Evan? It's 6:30 in the morning. I know. I'm sorry. I need to ask you something. Are you okay? You sound strange. I'm fine. I'm working a case. I'm at a mansion in the Hudson Valley. It's called the Van Alstyne Estate. Does that name mean anything to you? The line went silent. Evan could hear Dottie breathing. Then her voice came back cold and sharp. Leave. Now. Dottie, wait. I found something here. A photo of Mom. She was standing in this house. Who are these people? Evan, listen to me very carefully. Your mother made you promise something before she died. Do you remember? Evan closed his eyes. He remembered. The hospice room. The beeping machines. His mother's thin hand gripping his. Her voice barely a whisper. Never go back to the Hudson Valley. Never ask about your father. That was the last real conversation they had. 2 days later, she was gone. I remember. Then honor it. Get out of that house. Get out of that town. There are people there who do not want you asking questions. She's gone, Dottie. And someone put my name on an envelope in this house. Someone saved a photo of her for decades. I deserve to know why. Dottie's voice cracked. She sounded afraid. Your mother protected you, Evan. She gave up everything to keep you safe. Don't undo that. Please. The line went dead. Evan stared at the phone. Dottie had never hung up on him. Not once in his entire life. She was the steady one. The reasonable one. The one who always picked up. Now she was terrified. Evan looked at the photograph again. He studied his mother's face. She looked happy. Relaxed. Comfortable. This was not a tourist photo. This was not a stranger's house. She had belonged here. He turned the photo over. On the back, someone had written a date in pencil. May 1984. Evan did the math quickly. He was born in December 1984. 7 months after this photo was taken. His chest tightened. The gray-haired man stepped forward. His voice was quiet but urgent. Sir, you should leave before the rest of your team comes inside. This house has too many eyes. What's your name? The man hesitated. He looked at Evan like he was making a decision that could not be undone. "Robert! My name is Robert." Evan felt something cold slide down his spine. "That name?" His mother used to say it sometimes in her sleep. Just a whisper. Just once or twice over the years. He thought he had imagined it. "Robert what?" Robert's face went pale. He stepped back into the kitchen hallway and disappeared. Evan heard footsteps upstairs. Slow. Deliberate. Someone was awake. Someone was listening. His phone buzzed again. Agent Torres from the task force. "Mercer, we're coming up. You've been in there 8 minutes. Copy. Front door is clear. I'm starting the first floor sweep." Evan ended the call. He had maybe 2 minutes before the team flooded the house. 2 minutes to figure out what he was walking into. He looked at the staircase again. He thought about his mother's last words. Her warning. Her fear. Never go back. But someone had brought him back. Someone had put his name on that envelope. Someone had waited decades to place that brass key in his hand on the exact day a federal warrant brought him to this door. This was not an accident. This was not a coincidence. Someone wanted Evan to find the truth. But why now? And why deliver it wrapped in a federal investigation? Chapter 3. The Hidden Lock. The federal team spread through the Van Alstyne mansion like water. They moved room by room. They photographed everything. They cataloged furniture and file cabinets and old paintings. Agent Torres took the upstairs. Evan stayed on the first floor. He walked through the library. The walls were lined with dark wood shelves, old law books, history books. Some looked like they had not been touched in 50 years. Dust hung in the air. The carpet was worn thin near the fireplace. Evan ran his hand along the bookshelves. He was not looking for evidence anymore. He was looking for answers. The brass key was still in his pocket. He could feel its weight. He pulled it out and studied it again. The V-crest. The worn edges. This key had been used many times. It opened something important. But what? He looked around the library. There were no locked doors, no visible safes, just shelves and books and silence. Then he noticed something. One section of the molding near the fireplace was cleaner than the rest. Newer, like it had been replaced or refinished recently. Evan knelt down. He pressed his fingers along the edge. He felt a small gap. He pushed gently. Nothing happened. He pulled out the brass key. He examined the molding more carefully. There, a tiny keyhole hidden in the carved pattern. So small you would miss it, unless you were looking. Evan slid the key into the hole. It fit perfectly. He turned it slowly. A soft click. A section of the wall panel popped open. Just an inch. Just enough. Evan glanced toward the hallway. The team was still busy upstairs. He could hear their voices. Their footsteps. He had maybe 5 minutes. He pulled the panel open. Behind it was a narrow space. A hiding place built into the wall. Inside was a thin metal box. Gray. Government issue. The kind used for classified documents. Evan lifted it out. It was not locked. He opened it carefully. Inside were 3 items. First, a stack of old receipts. Hotel receipts. Restaurant bills. All from 1984 and 1985. All from towns in the Hudson Valley. Someone had saved them. Someone had kept a record of where they went and what they spent. Second, a cassette tape. The label was handwritten. It said R.K. Court. The handwriting was the same as on the envelope. Careful, old-fashioned. Third, a small hospital bracelet. The kind they put on newborns. It was white plastic. Faded. The ink was smudged, but Evan could still read it. It said Baby Boy Mercer. The last letter was cut off. Misspelled. Evan stared at the bracelet. His hand started shaking. This was his. This was from the day he was born. But why was it here? In this house? Hidden behind a wall? He heard footsteps behind him. He turned fast. Robert stood in the doorway. His face was gray. His eyes were wet. Please, put it back. You don't understand what you're doing. Who are you? I'm no one. I've been no one for a very long time. That's not an answer. Robert stepped closer. He looked at the metal box. He looked at the hospital bracelet in Evan's hand. His voice dropped to a whisper. They still watch this house, even now, even with federal agents walking through every room. You think a warrant protects you. It doesn't. Not from them. Who are they? Robert did not answer. He just stared at Evan. Then he turned and walked back toward the kitchen. Evan looked down at the cassette tape. R.K. Court. He did not have a cassette player. Nobody did anymore. But someone in the mansion might. He slipped the hospital bracelet into his wallet next to the photograph. He kept the cassette tape. He put the receipts back in the metal box and closed the panel. He heard a sound from upstairs. Not footsteps this time. Something else. A long mechanical hum, like a machine starting up. Then it stopped. Evan walked to the base of the staircase. He looked up. Agent Torres appeared at the top. Mercer, you need to see this. What is it? There's a locked room up here. Reinforced door. Medical equipment inside. Someone's been living up there. Evan felt his pulse quicken. The footsteps he had heard earlier. The machine sound. Someone was living in the mansion. Someone who did not want to be found. Did you open it? Not yet. We're waiting for clarification on the warrant scope. But I looked through the gap under the door. There's an oxygen tank in there. A hospital bed? Medicine bottles. Evan climbed the stairs. His mind was racing. Robert downstairs. The locked room upstairs. The brass key. The photograph. The cassette tape. Everything was connected. He just could not see how yet. He reached the second-floor hallway. Torres pointed to a door at the end. Heavy wood. New locks. A steel plate around the handle. Evan walked toward it. He stood outside and listened. Silence. Then a faint sound. Breathing. Slow and labored. Someone was inside. He knocked gently. Federal agents. We have a search warrant for this property. Please open the door. No response. Evan knocked again. Still nothing. He tried the handle. Locked. He pulled out the brass key. It did not fit this lock. This lock was modern. New. The brass key was old. Robert appeared at the top of the stairs. He looked at Evan standing outside the locked door. His face went completely white. Don't. Please. He's not strong enough. Who's in there, Robert? Robert opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked terrified. Not of Evan. Of something else. Someone else. If I tell you, we both die. Then Robert turned and practically ran back down the stairs. Evan stood in the hallway. Behind the door, the breathing continued. Steady. Mechanical. Like someone on life support. Who was behind that door? And why were they hiding? Chapter 4. The wrong name. The warrant did not cover forced entry into private living quarters without probable cause. Evan knew that. Torres knew that. They stood outside the locked door and weighed their options. We could call for a locksmith. Get a second warrant. Come back tomorrow. Or we wait for whoever's in there to come out on their own. Evan nodded. He did not like either option. But the law was the law, even when it slowed everything down. He walked back downstairs. The team was finishing up in the study. They had found file boxes, old tax returns, foundation paperwork. Nothing obviously criminal. Yet, Evan went to find Robert. He checked the kitchen. Empty. He checked the back hallway. Empty. He opened the back door and stepped outside. The yard was overgrown. The garden had gone wild. At the edge of the property was a small stone building. Maybe a guest house. Maybe old servants' quarters. Robert was standing there, smoking. His hand still shook when he lifted the cigarette. Evan walked over slowly. He did not want to spook him. You've been taking care of this place for a long time. Robert did not look at him. He just stared at the trees. 38 years. That's a long time to work for one family. I don't work for the family. I work for one person. And that person doesn't leave the house anymore. Evan felt his chest tighten. The person upstairs. The locked room. The oxygen tank. Who is it? Robert finally looked at him. His eyes were tired, sad, like he had been carrying something heavy for decades, and his arms were giving out. If I tell you, they'll know. And if they know, you'll be in danger. I'm a federal marshal. I can handle danger. Not this kind. This kind comes in a suit. With a smile. With a court order that says you never existed. Before Evan could respond, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Expensive. Polished. The kind of car people in government drove when they wanted to look important. A woman stepped out. Mid-50s. Dark suit? perfect hair. She smiled as she walked toward the house, but her eyes were cold. Evan recognized her. Lila Kane, the county district attorney. She had been DA for 12 years. She won every election by a landslide. Everyone loved her. Everyone trusted her. But what was she doing here? This was a federal case. County prosecutors had no jurisdiction. Kane walked straight to Evan. She extended her hand. Deputy Marshal Mercer, I heard you were executing a warrant today. I wanted to make sure everything was running smoothly. Evan shook her hand. Her grip was firm, professional. Everything's fine, Ms. Kane, but this is a federal matter. We don't need county assistance. Of course. I'm not here officially. The Van Alstyne family has deep roots in this county. I just wanted to offer any historical context you might need. She smiled again. Perfect teeth. Perfect makeup. But something in her voice felt wrong. Too helpful. Too eager. That's kind of you. We're just finishing up the initial sweep now. Kane glanced at the house. Her eyes lingered on the second-floor windows. I heard there might be health concerns. Someone living upstairs who needs medical care. If that's the case, I can help arrange appropriate facilities. We have excellent county services. How did you hear that? Kane's smile did not falter. Small town, Marshal. Word travels fast, especially when federal agents show up at one of our oldest estates. Evan felt his instincts kick in. She knew too much. She had arrived too fast. And she was offering solutions before anyone had asked for help. Robert was watching from near the stone building. His face had gone even paler. He dropped his cigarette and stepped back inside. Kane noticed. Is that Robert Klein? I didn't know he was still working here. You know him? Everyone knows Robert. He's been part of this property forever. Quiet man. Keeps to himself. She said it casually. But Evan heard something else in her voice. A warning. Or maybe a threat. Ms. Kane, I appreciate you stopping by. But we really do have everything under control. Kane's smile finally faded. Just a little. Just enough. Of course. But Marshal Mercer, a word of advice. This town has a long memory. And some families have very good lawyers. If you find anything sensitive during your search, you might want to think carefully about how you proceed. For your own sake. Is that a threat? It's friendly guidance. I'd hate to see your career complicated by procedural missteps. You're close to retirement, aren't you? Evan's blood went cold. She knew about his retirement timeline. She had looked him up. She had checked his file. I appreciate your concern. Good. I'll let you get back to work. But if you need anything, my office is always available. Kane walked back to her SUV. She got in. She did not drive away immediately. She sat there, watching, making sure Evan knew she was watching. Finally, she pulled out of the driveway and disappeared down the tree-lined road. Evan stood in the yard. His mind was racing. Kane had called Robert by his full name. Robert Klein. Not just Robert. She knew exactly who he was. And she had warned Evan about his personnel file, about his career, about things that should have been private. What did she know about Evan's past? And how did she know it? Evan pulled out his phone. He called Agent Torres. Torres, run a background check for me. Robert Klein. Age approximately 60 to 70. Current address this property. I need everything. Criminal history. Aliases. Federal records. Got it. Might take a few hours. Make it fast. Evan ended the call. He looked back at the stone building where Robert had disappeared. Then he looked up at the second floor of the mansion. The locked room. The breathing. The oxygen machine. Someone was in there. Someone Kane did not want Evan to find. And Robert Klein was protecting them. But why? And from who? Chapter 5. The Missing Box. Evan spent the rest of the day going through the mansion room by room. The team cataloged everything. Foundation records, bank statements, property deeds. All legal, all clean. Too clean. By 6 o'clock, Torres called the sweep complete. They loaded the evidence boxes into the van. They would review everything back at the field office. Standard procedure. But Evan stayed behind. He told Torres he wanted to do a final walkthrough. Make sure they had not missed anything. Torres agreed and took the team back to town. Evan waited until the van disappeared down the road. Then he went back inside. Robert was in the kitchen. He was making tea. His hands still trembled. They're gone. Robert did not look up. For now. We need to talk. No, we don't. Robert Klein. That's your full name. D.A. Kane said it like she knows you. Like you have history. Robert set down the teapot. He finally looked at Evan. History is the right word, but it's not my history. It's yours. What does that mean? Robert walked to the kitchen table. He sat down heavily. He looked exhausted, like he had been awake for days. Your mother worked at the county courthouse in 1984. She was a clerk. She handled sealed filings, witness protection cases, federal cooperator arrangements. She had access to names and addresses that were supposed to stay buried. Evan sat down across from him. How do you know that? Because I was one of those names. I flipped on a money laundering operation. Big names? Old families? People with power. The kind of power that doesn't forgive. Your mother helped me disappear. She falsified some paperwork. She created a shelter arrangement that kept me alive. And she fell in love with me. We had 7 months together. We were careful. We kept it secret. Then she found out she was pregnant. Evan's chest tightened. He already knew where this was going, but hearing it out loud made it real. You're my father. Robert nodded. His eyes filled with tears. Your mother wanted to keep you. But the people I testified against found out about us. They threatened her. They threatened you. So we made a deal. She would leave town. She would never come back. She would never tell you about me. And I would stay here, hidden, forgotten, a ghost. Why here? Why this house? The Van Alstynes were part of the arrangement. Old money, old connections. They owned properties that didn't officially exist. This mansion was perfect, big enough to hide in, remote enough to stay off the radar. I've been here ever since. 38 years, watching the world through windows. Waiting. For what? For you. Your mother told me if anything ever happened to her, she would leave you a sign. Something that would bring you back here. I didn't think she'd actually do it, but she did. She planned this years ago, before she got sick. She arranged for the envelope to be delivered the day a federal warrant brought you to this door. Evan pulled out the photograph. He set it on the table. She's smiling in this photo. She looks happy. She was. For 7 months, we were happy. Then reality caught up. Evan's phone buzzed. A text from Torres. The background check on Robert Klein was done. Evan opened the file. Robert Klein, federal witness, testified in 1985 against a Hudson Valley money laundering ring connected to county officials and old money families. Entered witness protection. Last known location sealed. Current status presumed relocated. Evan looked up. You're supposed to be in witness protection. Relocated. Under a new name. I was. For about 6 months. Then I came back here. The arrangement changed. I stayed hidden but in plain sight. It was safer that way. At least that's what they told me. Who's they? Before Robert could answer, Evan heard glass breaking upstairs. A crash. Then silence. Both men jumped to their feet. Evan pulled his weapon. He moved toward the staircase. Robert grabbed his arm. Don't. Please. It's not safe. Someone just broke in. They're not breaking in. They're taking something. Evan shook off Robert's hand and ran up the stairs. He moved fast. Weapon drawn. Training, kicking in. He reached the second-floor hallway. The locked room door was still closed, but another door down the hall was open. The study. The room where Evan had found the hidden panel earlier. He moved toward it. Careful. Quiet. The room was dark. He could see a shape near the fireplace. Someone kneeling. Someone prying open the wall panel. Federal agent. Don't move. The figure froze. Then bolted. They ran toward the window. Evan chased. But the person was fast. They jumped through the open window onto the porch roof. Then dropped to the ground and disappeared into the trees. Evan ran to the window. He could hear footsteps crashing through the brush. Then a car engine starting somewhere down the road. Then nothing. He turned back to the room. He went to the wall panel. It was open. The metal box was gone. Someone had taken it. The receipts. The cassette tape. Everything. Except, Evan looked closer. On the floor near the panel was the brass key, the same key that had been in the envelope. The thief had left it behind. Why? Robert appeared in the doorway. He was breathing hard. He looked at the empty hiding space. They took it. Who? I don't know. But they left the key. That means something. What? It means they want you to keep looking. They want you to find the next piece. Evan picked up the brass key. It was still cold, still heavy. What next piece? Robert walked to the window. He looked out at the dark yard. There's another key. A second one. Your mother hid it somewhere else. Somewhere only you would think to look. The brass key is just the first lock. There are more. Evan's phone buzzed again. Another text from Torres. Just got a call from the U.S. Attorney's office. Someone filed a complaint about today's search, claiming we exceeded warrant scope. There's going to be an internal review. Evan showed the text to Robert. Kane? Robert nodded. She's trying to shut you down before you find the truth. What truth? Robert turned to face Evan. His voice was barely a whisper. The cassette tape they just stole. It has a recording on it. Your mother made it in 1987, 2 years after you were born. She recorded a statement about the arrangement that kept me hidden, and she named the people who made the deal. Kane's father was one of them. He was a county judge back then. He signed off on paperwork that never should have existed. If that tape gets out, it destroys his legacy, and it destroys Kane's political career. So Kane sent someone to steal it, or someone who works for her. Either way, you're in her crosshairs now. Evan looked at the brass key in his hand, then at Robert, then at the empty space in the wall. There's still someone upstairs, in the locked room. Who is it? Robert's face went pale again. That's the second piece of the truth, and it's the piece that will get us both killed if you open that door. Chapter 6. The Courthouse Secret. Evan drove to the county courthouse early the next morning. He did not tell Torres where he was going. He did not tell Robert. He just went. The courthouse was old, built in the 1890s. Stone and brick, high ceilings, long hallways that smelled like floor wax and old paper. Evan went to the clerk's office on the second floor. He asked to see archived filings from 1984 and 1985. The clerk, a young woman with tired eyes, told him those records were in the basement. She gave him a key and directions. The basement was cold. Rows of metal shelves, boxes stacked floor to ceiling. Decades of paperwork. Evan found the section marked 1984. He started searching. He did not know exactly what he was looking for, but he knew it had something to do with Robert Klein, with witness protection, with sealed arrangements. He opened box after box. Divorce filings, property disputes, criminal cases. Nothing stood out. Then he found a box marked Sealed Federal Cooperator Agreements. Inside were thin folders. Each one had a case number and a date. Most were routine, standard witness protection paperwork, federal signatures, county clerk stamps. But one folder felt different, thicker, older. The case number had been partially redacted. Evan opened it. Inside was a filing dated August 1985. It detailed a protective arrangement for a federal witness. Name redacted. New identity redacted. Relocation details redacted. But at the bottom was a signature line. County approval. Signed by Judge Harrison Kane, Lila Kane's father. And next to his signature was a handwritten note in the margin subject to remain at designated property. Monitoring arrangement in place. No relocation required. Evan read it again. No relocation required. That meant Robert had never actually been relocated. He had stayed at the Van Alstyne mansion the whole time, hidden in plain sight, with the county's knowledge. But why? Why would the county agree to that? Why would a federal witness stay in the same town where he had testified against powerful people, unless the county had a reason to keep him close? Evan heard footsteps on the stairs. He looked up. An older woman appeared. She wore a cardigan and carried a coffee mug. She looked at Evan with surprise. "Can I help you? I'm Deputy U.S. Marshall Mercer. I'm reviewing some old case files." The woman squinted at him. Then her face changed. Recognition. Maybe fear. "You're Anne's son." Evan froze. "You knew my mother?" The woman nodded slowly. She set down her coffee mug and came closer. I'm Margaret. I worked with your mother in this office. Back in the 80s. She was one of the best clerks we ever had. Smart, careful, kind. Did you know about Robert Klein? Margaret's face went pale. She glanced toward the stairs like someone might be listening. We need to talk somewhere else. Margaret took Evan to a diner 2 blocks from the courthouse. They sat in a back booth. She ordered coffee. Evan ordered nothing. He just waited. Margaret spoke quietly. Your mother loved Robert. I mean, really loved him. It wasn't just an affair. It was real. But he was in danger. He had testified against people who controlled half this county. Old families. Old money. They wanted him dead. So the county made a deal. Judge Kane made a deal. He told the federal prosecutors that relocating Robert would be too risky, too visible. He proposed an alternative. Keep Robert hidden locally. Use the Van Alstyne estate as a safe house. The family owed Kane favors. Big favors. So they agreed. And my mother? Your mother handled all the paperwork. She sealed the filings. She made sure Robert's name never appeared in public records. She thought she was protecting him. But then she got pregnant with you. And everything changed. Margaret's hands shook as she lifted her coffee cup. The people Robert testified against found out. They threatened your mother. They said if she didn't leave town, they would kill Robert. And they would kill you. So she left. She took you and disappeared. She made your father promise never to contact you, never to acknowledge you, and she made you promise never to come back. But she wanted me to find the truth eventually. Yes, she told me that before she left. She said someday you would come back. And when you did, you would understand why she did what she did. She said she left pieces of the puzzle. Keys, clues, things only you would recognize. Evan pulled out the brass key. He set it on the table. Margaret stared at it. Where did you find that? In the mansion. In an envelope with my name on it. That key opens more than one lock. Your mother told me that once. She said if you ever found it, you would know where to look next. Where? Margaret reached across the table. She touched the key gently. The V crest. That's not just for Van Alstyne. It's also for something else. A vault. In the courthouse basement. Your mother had access to it when she worked here. She stored things there. Private things. Things she didn't want anyone else to find. Can you show me? Margaret hesitated, then nodded. But we have to be careful. Kane has people watching the courthouse. If she finds out you're digging into her father's old cases, she'll shut you down. She's already filed a complaint about your warrant. She's trying to get you removed from the case. I know. Then you know she's dangerous. She's protected her father's legacy her whole career. She won't let you destroy it now. Evan and Margaret walked back to the courthouse. They went down to the basement, past the shelves of archived files, to a back corner Evan had not noticed before. There was a small door, unmarked. Margaret pulled out a ring of old keys. She tried 3 before one finally worked. The door opened to a narrow room, more like a closet. Inside was a single metal cabinet. Locked. Evan pulled out the brass key. He tried it in the cabinet lock. It fit. It turned. The cabinet opened. Inside were 3 items. First, a cassette tape, labeled Mercer 1987, in his mother's handwriting. Second, a sealed envelope, addressed to Evan Mercer. Do not open until you are ready. Third, a second brass key, identical to the first. Same V crest, same worn edges. Evan picked up the cassette tape. His hands were shaking. What's on this? Margaret looked at the label. Her face went sad. Your mother's voice. She recorded it 2 years after you were born. She wanted you to hear the truth from her, in her own words. She wanted you to understand why she made the choices she made. Evan slipped the tape into his jacket pocket. He picked up the sealed envelope. He did not open it. Not yet. Then he picked up the second key. What does this one open? I don't know. Your mother never told me. But she said when you found it, you would know. Evan heard footsteps on the stairs. Heavy. Fast. Multiple people. Margaret's face went white. We need to leave. Now. But it was too late. 3 men appeared at the basement entrance. County deputies. They wore uniforms, but their faces were cold. Professional. like they had done this before. One of them stepped forward. "Marshal Mercer, D.A. Kane wants to see you. Now." Chapter 7. The Man Upstairs. The deputies did not arrest Evan. They just escorted him to the DA's office. Kane was waiting in her conference room. She smiled when Evan walked in, but her eyes were ice. "Thank you for coming, Marshal. Please sit." Evan sat. The deputies stayed by the door. Margaret had disappeared. Probably scared. Probably smart. Kane folded her hands on the table. "I understand you've been conducting an independent investigation, outside the scope of your federal warrant, accessing courthouse records without authorization, talking to former employees. This concerns me. I'm following evidence. You're following a ghost story. Your mother had a complicated past. Robert Klein had a complicated past. But that doesn't give you the right to drag my family's name through the mud. Your father signed paperwork that kept a federal witness hidden in plain sight. That's not standard procedure. That's corruption." Kane's smile vanished. "My father did what was necessary to protect a man's life. He followed the law. Every signature, every filing, all legal. If you're implying otherwise, you better have proof." Evan pulled out the cassette tape. He set it on the table. "This is my mother's voice. Recorded in 1987. She talks about the arrangement your father made. She names names. She explains how the deal worked. And she says your father was paid to keep Robert Klein at the Van Alstyne estate." Kane stared at the tape. For the first time, Evan saw fear in her eyes. "Where did you get that?" "My mother hid it. She knew someday the truth would matter." Kane stood up. She walked to the window. She looked out at the courthouse square. "You don't understand what you're doing, Marshal. My father wasn't corrupt. He was pragmatic. The people Robert testified against were dangerous. Truly dangerous. If Robert had been relocated through normal channels, he would have been dead within a month. My father kept him alive. He saved his life. By hiding him in a mansion owned by one of the families Robert testified against?" "That doesn't make sense." Kane turned back to face Evan. "The Van Alstynes were involved, yes, but they cooperated. They cut a deal. They gave up their partners in exchange for immunity. My father brokered that deal. It kept everyone alive, including Robert, including your mother, including you. Then why did my mother have to leave?" Kane's face softened. "Just a little. Because some people didn't honor the deal. Some people wanted revenge anyway. Your mother became a target. My father tried to protect her. But she decided the only way to keep you safe was to disappear. She was right." Evan stood up. He walked toward Kane. "If your father was so clean, why are you trying to stop me from investigating? Because you're going to hurt people who don't deserve it. You're going to destroy reputations. You're going to open old wounds. And for what? To satisfy your own curiosity? To find the truth. The truth is messy, Marshal, and it won't change the past. Your mother is gone. Robert is a shell of the man he was. My father's legacy is the only good thing that came out of this disaster. Don't take that away." Evan picked up the cassette tape. He put it back in his pocket. "I'm going back to the mansion. I'm going to play this tape. And I'm going to open the locked room upstairs. And if you try to stop me, I'll make sure every federal agency in New York knows what your father did." Kane's face went hard. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." Evan walked out. The deputies did not stop him. Evan drove straight back to the Van Alstyne mansion. It was late afternoon. The October sun was low and orange. The trees cast long shadows across the driveway. Robert was waiting on the front porch. He looked like he had not slept. Kane called. "She said you have the tape." "I do." "You need to destroy it." "No." "Evan, please. That tape names people who are still alive. People who still have power. If you play it, we're both dead. Then we die knowing the truth." Evan walked past Robert into the house. He went straight to the study. He found an old cassette player in a drawer. He plugged it in. He inserted the tape. Robert stood in the doorway. His face was gray, resigned. Evan pressed play. Static. Then his mother's voice, younger than he remembered, but unmistakable. "My name is Ann Mercer. It's June 1987. I'm making this recording because I need someone to know the truth, in case something happens to me. In case Evan ever needs to understand. Evan's chest tightened. Hearing her voice again felt like a punch. I worked at the county courthouse. I was a clerk. I handled sealed filings. In August 1984, a man named Robert Klein came into witness protection. He had testified against a money laundering operation. Big names, old families. Judge Harrison Kane offered to keep Robert safe. He arranged for Robert to stay at the Van Alstyne estate. He said it was safer than relocating him. A pause. Evan could hear his mother breathing. But it wasn't just about safety. Kane was protecting the Van Alstynes. They had paid him a lot of money to make sure their names stayed out of the prosecution. Robert's testimony was supposed to take them down too. But Kane made a deal. The Van Alstynes got immunity. They kept their money, their reputation, and in exchange, they let Robert hide in their house. Evan looked at Robert. Robert's face was wet with tears. I fell in love with Robert. We tried to be careful, but I got pregnant. When Kane found out, he was furious. He said I had compromised the arrangement. He said the people Robert testified against would use me and the baby as leverage. He told me to leave, to disappear, to never come back. Another pause. Longer this time. I left. I took Evan and I left. But I kept records, receipts, documents, proof of what Kane did. I hid them in the courthouse. I hid them in the mansion. I made sure if anything ever happened to me, Evan would find them. And he would know the truth. The tape stopped. Silence. Evan ejected it. He looked at Robert. Kane's father was corrupt. Yes. And Lila Kane knows. Yes. She spent her whole career covering it up, making sure no one ever looked too closely at her father's old cases. And the person upstairs, in the locked room. Who is that? Robert closed his eyes. That's the part your mother never knew. The part I've been keeping secret for 38 years. Tell me. Robert opened his eyes. He looked directly at Evan. It's not a person. It's me. My real identity. My real name. The name I had before I became Robert Klein. I don't understand. Robert Klein is a fake name. A witness protection identity. My real name is Robert Van Alstyne. I'm the son of the family that owns this house. I testified against my own father, against my own family, and Judge Kane didn't relocate me. He kept me prisoner, in my own home, for 38 years. Evan stared at him. The world tilted. You're a Van Alstyne. I was. I gave up that name when I flipped. But legally, I still own this property. I still own the foundation. I still own everything. And Kane has been using me to control it all. Signing documents, transferring money. All legal, all clean. Because I'm alive. And I'm cooperating. Because I have no choice. And the room upstairs? Robert's voice broke. That's where I sleep. Where I've slept for 38 years. Locked in, fed through a slot. Monitored. Controlled. Your mother never knew. She thought I was free. She thought I was safe. But I've been a prisoner this whole time. Evan felt rage rising in his chest. We're opening that door. Right now. No. If you open it, Kane will know. She has cameras. Monitoring equipment. She'll know within minutes. Let her know. Evan pulled out the second brass key. The one from the courthouse vault. He held it up. This opens the upstairs room. Doesn't it? Robert nodded. Your mother made a copy. Years ago. Before she left. She wanted you to be able to free me. When the time was right. The time is right now. Evan ran upstairs. Robert followed. They stood outside the locked door. Evan inserted the second brass key. It fit perfectly. He turned it. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Inside was a small room. A hospital bed. An oxygen machine. Medicine bottles everywhere. But no cameras. No monitoring equipment. Just an empty bed. Robert stared at the room. Confused. Terrified. I don't understand. Where? A voice behind them. Cold. Calm. He's been moved. They turned. Lila Kane stood at the top of the stairs. She had a gun in her hand, not pointed at them. Just held. Just visible. You really should have listened to me, Marshal. Chapter 8. The Storm. Kane kept the gun low but ready. 2 deputies appeared behind her on the stairs. They looked nervous, like they did not want to be here but had no choice. Where is he? Evan's voice was steady. His hand moved slowly toward his own weapon. Don't. Kane's gun came up, pointed directly at Evan's chest. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to stop you from making a catastrophic mistake. You've been holding a man prisoner for 38 years. That's kidnapping. That's conspiracy. That's protection. Kane cut him off. Her voice was sharp. Final. Robert Van Alstyne testified against his own family, against people who would have killed him the first chance they got. My father made a deal. The Van Alstynes stayed quiet. Robert stayed alive. Everyone won. Except Robert. He's been locked in this house his whole life. He's been safe. Fed. Cared for. That's more than he would have gotten if he'd gone into normal witness protection. That's not your choice to make. Kane smiled. Cold. Bitter. You really don't understand, do you? This isn't about right or wrong. This is about survival. Robert owns this property. He owns the foundation. If he disappears, if he dies, if he recants his testimony, everything falls apart. The Van Alstyne money goes to distant relatives, people who will ask questions, people who will dig into the old cases, people who will find out what my father did. So you're keeping him alive to protect yourself. I'm keeping him alive because that's what my father would have wanted, and because it's the only way to keep this town from tearing itself apart. Outside, thunder rumbled. Rain started hitting the windows. Hard. Fast. A storm was coming in. Kane glanced toward the window, then back at Evan. I need you to walk away. Take your tape. Take your keys. Leave this house. Let Robert live out his last few years in peace, and I'll make sure your career stays intact. No complaints. No investigations. Clean retirement. Where is he? Safe. That's all you need to know. Evan took a step forward. Kane's gun came up higher. Don't make me do this. You won't shoot a federal marshal. I'll shoot someone who broke into a private residence without cause, who exceeded his warrant, who threatened a county official. Self-defense. My deputies will back me up. The two deputies behind her shifted uncomfortably, but they did not leave. Robert stepped forward. His voice was quiet, broken. Lila, please. I'm tired. I've been tired for 38 years. Just let me go. Kane's face softened. Just for a moment. I can't. You know I can't. If you leave, if you talk, if you testify against what my father did, his legacy is destroyed. Everything he built, everything he stood for. Gone. He was corrupt. He was practical. There's a difference. Robert shook his head. No, there isn't. And you know it. The lights flickered. The storm was getting worse. Wind rattled the windows. Evan could hear branches breaking outside. He made a decision. He pulled his weapon. Fast. Trained. He pointed it at Kane. Drop the gun. Kane did not drop it. She just stared at him. You won't shoot me either. Try me. For a long moment, no one moved. The rain hammered the roof. Thunder cracked overhead. Then Kane lowered her weapon. Slowly. Carefully. She set it on the floor. Fine. You win. But you have no idea what you're starting. Where is Robert Van Alstyne? Kane smiled. Sad. Resigned. In the East Wing. 3rd floor. My father had a safe room built there. Medical equipment. Everything he needs. I moved him there this morning after you found the courthouse vault. I knew you'd come here next. Evan nodded to one of the deputies. Take us there. Now. The deputy hesitated. Kane nodded. The deputy led them down the hall. Through a narrow door. Up a hidden staircase Evan had not seen during the initial sweep. The 3rd floor was dark. Low ceilings. Old servants' quarters. At the end of the hallway was a heavy steel door. Reinforced? Modern. The deputy unlocked it with a key card. The door swung open. Inside was a small room. Clean. Sterile. Hospital bed. Oxygen machine. IV drip. And in the bed, a man. Thin. Pale. Old. But his eyes were sharp. Aware. He looked at Evan. Then at Kane. Then back at Evan. You must be Anne's son. His voice was weak but clear. Evan stepped into the room. I'm Evan Mercer. The man smiled. Faint? Warm. You look like her. Same eyes. Same stubborn jaw. Are you Robert Van Alstyne? I was. A long time ago. Now I'm just a ghost. Kane stood in the doorway. Her face was pale. Defeated. I kept him alive. I kept him safe. That's more than his own family would have done. Robert Van Alstyne looked at Kane. Sad. Forgiving. I know. But it's time, Lila. It's time to let the truth out. Your father made mistakes. So did mine. So did I. We all did. But Evan deserves to know. And I deserve to be free. Even if it's just for a few days. The power went out. The storm had taken down a line somewhere. Emergency lights kicked on. Dim. Red. Evan heard footsteps downstairs. Fast. Multiple people. Kane's face went white. They're here. Who? The people who never stopped wanting Robert dead. The people who have been waiting for him to resurface. I kept him hidden for a reason. Evan pulled out his phone. No signal. The storm had knocked out the cell tower. He looked at Robert Van Alstyne. The old man was calm. Resigned. You need to get him out of here. Now. Kane shook her head. You can't. The roads are flooded. The bridge is out. We're trapped. Evan's training kicked in. He assessed the situation. Hostile force downstairs. No backup. No communication. Civilian to protect. Multiple exits compromised. He looked at the two deputies. You with me or with them? The deputies exchanged glances, then nodded. With you. Good. Get Robert ready to move. We're going out the back. Kane grabbed Evan's arm. There is no back exit from here. This room was designed to be a dead end. A safe room? Then we make one. Evan turned to the window. Old glass. Single pane. He grabbed a chair and smashed it through. Rain poured in. Wind howled. Below was a porch roof. Steep. Slippery. But possible. Can he walk? Kane looked at Robert Van Alstyne. The old man was already sitting up, pulling out his IV, disconnecting his oxygen. I can walk. I've been waiting 38 years to walk. Downstairs, something crashed. Voices shouting. Footsteps pounding up the main staircase. Evan helped Robert to the window. The old man was frail but determined. Evan lowered him onto the porch roof. One of the deputies followed. Then Kane. Then the second deputy. Evan climbed out last. The rain was freezing. The roof was slick. They moved slowly, carefully. Below, Evan could see a black van. Lights off. Men standing outside. Watching. Waiting. They reached the edge of the porch roof. A drop of about 12 feet to the ground. Manageable. Evan lowered Robert down first. The deputy caught him. Then the others. Evan was about to jump when he heard a voice behind him. Marshal Mercer. He turned. A man stood at the broken window. Older. Expensive suit. Cold eyes. You should have listened to Ms. Kane. This didn't have to get messy. Who are you? The man smiled. I'm the one who's been keeping Robert alive, and the one who will decide if he stays that way. Evan jumped. Chapter 9. The transfer. Evan hit the ground hard. His ankle twisted but held. He pulled Robert toward the tree line. The deputies and Kane followed. Behind them, men poured out of the mansion. 4, maybe 5. They moved like professionals. Trained. Coordinated. Evan had his weapon, but firing would give away their position. Better to move. Stay quiet. Find cover. They ran through the trees. The rain was relentless. Cold. Blinding. Robert was struggling. His breathing was labored. Decades of confinement had weakened him. We need to get him to a vehicle. Kane was breathing hard. Her perfect hair was plastered to her face. Her suit was ruined. My car is at the front of the house. We'll never make it. What about yours? Evan looked at the two deputies. One of them nodded. County cruiser. Parked on the service road. Half a mile east. Go. They moved as fast as Robert could manage. The old man did not complain. Did not ask to stop. He just kept moving. One foot in front of the other. Like he had been waiting his whole life for this moment. Behind them, flashlights cut through the trees. Voices shouting. Getting closer. Evan stopped at a fallen log. He turned to the deputies. Get him to your car. Drive to the federal building in Albany. Straight there. No stops. Call the U.S. attorney from the road. Tell them you have a federal witness in custody. Tell them Lila Kane is cooperating. Kane looked at him. What are you going to do? Buy you time. You can't take them all. I don't have to. I just have to slow them down. One of the deputies handed Evan a radio. Channel 6. We'll stay on it. Evan nodded. He watched them disappear into the darkness. Robert Van Alstyne, the man who was his biological father, the man he had never known, the ghost who had haunted his entire life. Gone. But finally free, Evan moved back toward the mansion. He stayed low. Quiet. He circled around to the driveway. The black van was still there. Engine running. One man standing guard. Evan approached from behind. Fast? Silent. He took the guard down with a chokehold. No shots fired. No noise. He dragged the unconscious man into the bushes. He opened the van. Inside was surveillance equipment, radios, weapons, and a laptop showing a split screen of camera feeds. Evan recognized the feeds. Interior shots of the Van Alstyne mansion. But these were not from a security system. These were hidden cameras, installed without the owner's knowledge. He scrolled through the files on the laptop. Folder after folder of recordings. Dates going back years. Decades. Someone had been watching Robert Van Alstyne the entire time. Not just Kane, someone else. Someone with resources. Someone with reach. Evan pulled a flash drive from his pocket. He copied everything. Then he destroyed the laptop. Smashed it with the butt of his weapon. He grabbed a radio from the van. He switched it to the frequency he heard the men using. Target is in the east tree line, moving toward the service road. 2 deputies with him. Evan's voice was calm, authoritative, like he was one of them. A voice crackled back. Copy. Intercept and contain. Do not harm. Subject must be alive. Interesting. They wanted Robert alive. That gave Evan leverage. He moved back into the trees. He followed the route the deputies had taken. He could hear the men ahead of him, crashing through the brush. Clumsy, overconfident. Evan was faster. He cut through a gully and came up on their flank. He fired one shot into the air. The men stopped, confused, turning toward the sound. Evan fired again. Different direction. They scattered, trying to find cover, trying to locate the shooter. Evan's radio crackled. Mercer, this is Deputy Halston. We've reached the vehicle. Heading to Albany now. Copy. Stay on Channel 6. I'll catch up. You sure? Go. Get him safe. That's the priority. The line went quiet. Evan moved through the trees. The men were regrouping, talking on their radios, arguing about what to do. Then a new voice. The man from the window. Marshal Mercer, I know you can hear me. Let's talk. Man to man. Evan did not respond. You think you've won. You've rescued Robert. You've exposed Kane. You've got your big moment. But you don't understand what you've done. Robert Van Alstyne is not a victim. He's a key. He unlocks access to a foundation worth $500 million. Money that's been flowing to very important people for a very long time. If Robert talks, if he testifies, if he recants his original deal, that money disappears. And the people who depend on it will do anything to stop that from happening. Evan stayed silent. He circled closer to where the voice was coming from. Your mother understood this. That's why she left. That's why she made you promise never to come back. She knew if you found Robert, you'd put him in danger. And you'd put yourself in danger. And she was right. The man stepped into a clearing. He was alone. Hands up. No weapon visible. I'm not your enemy, Marshal. I'm the one who kept Robert alive. I'm the one who paid for his medical care. I'm the one who made sure he had everything he needed. Lila Kane thought she was in control, but she was just a middleman. I'm the real architect. Evan stepped out of the shadows, his weapon raised. Who are you? The man smiled. My name is Vincent Aldridge. I'm the chairman of the Van Alstyne Foundation. Robert's uncle, his father's brother, the man he testified against all those years ago. Evan's finger tightened on the trigger. You're the one he sent to prison. I served 6 years. White-collar facility. Tennis courts and library time. Not exactly hard labor. And when I got out, I made a deal with Judge Kane. I would fund Robert's care. I would make sure he stayed comfortable. And in exchange, he would sign paperwork that kept the foundation running. Kept the money flowing. Everyone won. You kept him prisoner. I kept him alive. His own testimony would have gotten him killed. I saved him. Just like Cain saved him. Just like your mother saved him. We all saved him. And now you've undone all of that. He's free. He's going to testify. He's going to tell the truth about what you did. Vincent's smile faded. No, he won't. Because if he does, you die. And Cain dies. And everyone who helped you dies. I have people everywhere, Marshal. In law enforcement. In government. In the courts. I can make you disappear and no one will ask questions. I have evidence. I have recordings. I have the laptop from your van. Vincent's face went pale. That laptop is encrypted. I copied everything before I destroyed it. It's already on its way to the U.S. attorney. A lie, but a good one. Vincent took a step forward. Evan's weapon tracked him. You're bluffing. Try me. For a long moment, they stood in the rain, staring at each other. The storm raged around them. Then Vincent's radio crackled. Sir, the vehicle is gone. They've reached the highway. We lost them. Vincent closed his eyes. Defeated. You just signed your own death warrant, Marshal. Maybe. But Robert is free. And the truth is coming out. That's all that matters. Evan backed away into the trees. Vincent did not follow. Chapter 10. The Second Key. 3 months later, Evan stood outside the federal courthouse in Albany. The trial had lasted 6 weeks. Vincent Aldridge had been convicted on 14 counts of fraud, extortion, and witness tampering. Lila Kane had testified against him in exchange for immunity. She resigned as district attorney the day the verdict came in. Robert Van Alstyne was living in a small apartment in Albany. Protected, monitored, but free. He had testified for 5 hours. Calm, clear, honest. He told the truth about everything. The deal with Judge Kane, the fake protective arrangement, the decades of confinement, the foundation money, all of it. Evan had visited him twice. Short conversations. Awkward. They did not know each other. Not really. 38 years of absence could not be erased with a few hours of conversation. But they tried. Evan retired from the Marshal's service the week after the trial ended. He bought a small house in the Hudson Valley, close to where his mother had lived, close to where she had worked, close to the memories she had tried so hard to bury. He spent his days sorting through her belongings. She had saved everything. Photos, letters, documents, a whole life in boxes. One afternoon he found another envelope, hidden in the lining of an old suitcase. It was addressed to him. In his mother's handwriting, he opened it carefully. Inside was a short letter, and another key, the same brass V crest, the same worn edges. The letter was dated 2 months before she died. My dearest Evan, if you're reading this, you've found Robert. You've learned the truth, and I hope you can forgive me for keeping it from you. I loved him. I still love him. But love is not enough when people are trying to kill you. Love is not enough when your child's life is at stake. I made choices, hard choices, and I stand by them. But there's one more thing you need to know. One more secret I kept. You have a sister, half-sister, Robert's daughter from before he went into witness protection. Her name is Claire. She was 4 years old when he testified. She was raised by her mother. She never knew him. She never knew about you. The key I've left you opens a safety deposit box in Kingston. Box 217. Inside is information about Claire, where she lives, what she does, who she is. I met her once, years ago, before I got sick. I wanted to see her, to know if Robert's eyes looked back at me from another face. They did. She's your family, Evan. The only family you have left besides Robert. Whether you find her is up to you, but you deserve to know she exists. I love you. I always have. And I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth while I was alive. I was too scared, too ashamed, too tired. But you're strong enough. You've always been strong enough. Love, Mom. Evan read the letter 3 times. Then he folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. He looked at the brass key. The third one. The last one. He thought about his mother. About Robert. About Aunt Dottie. About all the people who had kept secrets to protect him. To keep him safe. To shield him from the truth. And he thought about Claire. A sister he had never known. A connection he had never imagined. He stood up. He grabbed his jacket. He put the key in his pocket, and he drove to Kingston.